So I'm a 34-year-old single male. I started watching pornography at 18 years old, and lately, I've realized that I'm watching it a lot and masturbating every day. I did some research and saw that it's considered normal and healthy to watch pornography and masturbate. However, the more I watch, the more I want, and I find myself diving deeper and deeper into the world of pornography. So deep that I'm starting to think it might not be as healthy as it's said to be because I don't feel healthy at all. I feel more like scum, and I've reached a point where I feel it's too late to turn back, like I'm too far gone. I would like to know if anyone here has ever reached that point and come out because I really want to stop. I feel horrible. Story 1. It's difficult to stop, but if you're home and feel the urge, use that energy to take a shower. It doesn't have to be a cold shower, just wash yourself. When you're done, find something to clean. That's what I started doing, and it's helped to break the habit. Story 2. Good for you, original poster. Treat it like an addiction, which it is. Remove the temptation. Find things that will not only occupy your mind, but also keep you physically away from accessing it, and assert a little willpower. Story 3. Stop immediately. Do not use porn if you can only use your imagination. The problem is that you reprogram your mind to only be aroused by porn. Simply put, when the big moment does happen, you will possibly have performance anxiety. Trust me, I went 9 years without it, and that was my primary go-to stimulation. When the big moment arrived, I was horrible. It took several encounters before I could perform even close to pre-porn levels. Story 4. Female here. I've started doing a thing that every time I get aroused, which is a lot, I start doing math. I am not good at math. It makes me focus. I'm memorizing my times tables right now. I know I'm late, whatever, but you could do division or some complicated math. Nothing else has been as genuinely helpful. I'm very sensitive to touch, and that craving has me aroused literally all the time. I needed to move away from that, and math, my enemy, is really helping with stopping myself from pornography or masturbation. Hope this is helpful. Good luck. Story 5. My ex was definitely addicted to pornography. He would masturbate 1 to 3 times a day to pornography, often instead of being intimate with me. I'm a psychologist and specialize in addictive tendencies. He would get very defensive and angry with me anytime I tried to bring it up, as it was obviously affecting our sex life. I just want to give you kudos for even considering it's getting to be too much. From a psychological perspective, you should look into hijacked reward systems and pleasure thresholds. Similar to hard drugs, watching pornography hijacks your reward center and makes it so naturally happy hormone-inducing activities such as sex are less pleasure-evoking. The good news is reward systems can be reset over time. Good for you and best of luck. Story 6. Not even going to ask what you mean by going super deep, but it's a mental thing just like giving up smoking, alcohol, or junk food. Try to go a few days without doing it and maybe seek other hobbies or interests. I'm sure Google has some other suggestions, but ultimately they'll all revolve around mind training and distractions. Unless it's an addiction, then you'll need professional help. Story 7. Masturbate without pornography. Use your imagination. A lot of people make the mistake of treating pornography and masturbation as synonymous, but they are very different. Humans have been masturbating for hundreds of thousands of years. Think of it as a pressure valve, a way of calibrating your neurochemistry. The problem with pornography is that it breaks that pressure valve, at least for some people. Instead of having a balance, they continue to masturbate. It breaks the feedback loop. Story 8. Please recognize that the behavior you engage in is your brain's solution to a problem it has. It is solving a problem that you first need to discover in order to formulate alternative solutions. Maybe you watch pornography excessively to fill a void within you, or you do so as a way to disengage from negative emotions or problems you are facing. Please don't be hard on yourself over this. After all, it's the best solution your brain currently has. If you consume pornography to deal with negative emotions, recognize that this is a loop. You have negative emotions, you consume pornography, and in the end, you feel horrible about yourself, which is a negative emotion. I believe that you have 2 different parts of your brain that argue with each other. The first part wants you to consume pornography, and the second part recognizes that this is a problem and you want to stop. Feeling like it's too late to turn back might be the first part trying to convince the second part to give up. You can view pornography consumption in two separate ways. First, it satisfies a basic human need. This is what the material you read about pornography and masturbation being healthy and normal refers to. The other part is that consuming pornography increases your desire to consume more. This desire comes from the outside world, unlike needs which come from the inside. And you can choose to engage in it or not, but this requires willpower. If I were to guess, you most likely consume pornography when you are experiencing a lot of negative emotions and when your willpower is exhausted. What to do? Don't be hard on yourself over this. This is something you can overcome. Please reach out to more people who are dealing with the same issue as you and to people who have overcome it, either here or on other forms of social media. Try to figure out what problem pornography consumption is trying to solve. Discover alternative solutions to the problem. Try to learn to recognize when the problem, such as negative emotions, arises and how the desire to consume more pornography after your need is met comes from the outside world. You have the choice to engage in it or not. All the best, cheers. Story 9. Yes, I've been there and done that. I spent a solid 3 days locked in a room in the dark, just watching adult films, while simultaneously listening to soundtracks of moaning and climaxing. It was a stimulus overload. Eventually, my head hurt, and the next day when I woke up, I was just bored with the idea. But it was something that built up over many years, a kind of mental loop I was in. Honestly, I can't pinpoint a specific moment or thought that changed it. I just spent 3 solid days doing nothing else, got so overloaded, and felt so tired that when I woke up the next day, I had no interest. I think I even cooked food and made pancakes. Story 10. Fight the New Drug is a fantastic non-religious resource on the effects of pornography on your mentality, relationships, and health, including scientific articles, statistics, and many stories of people who have gone through what you're describing. They also have a great app and community dedicated to helping people of all walks of life have a healthy porn-free life. I would highly recommend at least taking a look at it. Story 11. I do not know the solution to that problem, but I once read an article written by 4 psychologists about pornography. They said that men who become addicted to pornography have a hard time finding ordinary women attractive, and women who become addicted to pornography have a hard time reaching an orgasm without it. My opinion is that pornography is just visual stimulation. It provides no interaction or way to relate to the person, which is what we really need, even during sex. Story 12. There has been research that has shown that distress from pornography use may actually be more connected to a moral incongruity than to a classic addiction. Pornography problems due to moral incongruence, an integrative model with a systematic review and meta-analysis. For myself, I have gone through waves where I quit porn with some goal in mind, like 30 days or whatever, but it was so hard not to fantasize about the underlying things I wanted. When I read a little bit about the idea of moral incongruences causing emotional distress, I sat down and honestly asked myself what I actually care about, want, and value in terms of relationships and sex. So I am trying something new. I've quit porn, not with the feeling of quitting an addiction and blaming myself for it. I'm asking myself how badly I want to be the kind of person who values immediate gratification and pleasure at the expense of other aspects of my life. I'm also asking myself how much I desire to be a person who is the kind of a man a woman wants to spend her life with. And I am finding I want to believe that I care more about a partner than immediate self-gratification. It's not exactly easy, but I am hopeful that I can be this person more than the other person. Story 13. Looking at pornography every time you masturbate is like eating a bowl of sugar every time you're hungry. It is the ultra-quick and easy pathway to rewards for your brain, so your brain tells you it's a good idea. But as a 34-year-old male, you hopefully know that you cannot just eat a bowl of sugar. You need to treat it with the same logic. I do not need this, and it's not good for me. Story 14. I used to watch pornography a lot. I wouldn't go so far as to say I was addicted, but maybe that's a sign of addiction in and of itself. I just found that I didn't like how I felt after masturbating. It felt so base. 1 minute feeling excited at the prospect of watching pornography and feeling exhilarated, and then afterward feeling empty and maybe not ashamed but something similar. I also felt like I was dissatisfied with my sex life and my spouse. It just seemed very boring compared to what I was seeing in pornography. I feel like pornography was training my brain in a bad way, giving me unrealistic and unhealthy expectations about what sex should be like and what a woman should look and act like during sex, but it was subconscious. Intellectually, I wasn't thinking those things, but after some introspection and comparison to my listless feelings about my sex life, it made more sense. After giving up pornography, I started finding my wife a lot more attractive. I was much more excited about the prospect of sex and felt a lot more passion and connection during intercourse as well. I felt more satisfied with my sex life and with life in general. It's hard to explain, but an analogy, I guess, is if you have ever gone on a diet and gave up sugar and processed carbohydrates for a while, you start to notice that all of a sudden fruit tastes a lot sweeter, and actually really rich desserts taste almost disgustingly sweet at first. It's because your taste buds get accustomed to the overly sweet processed sugar, and so you build up a tolerance so only the super sweet things taste normal, and naturally sweet things are bland by comparison. But after detoxing for a few weeks, your taste buds recalibrate, and all of a sudden the once bland fruit tastes incredibly sweet, as it should. A more normal state of being. I think pornography basically overexcites your sex drive and keeps ramping it up more and more with the easy access to so much material, so your body adapts and builds up a tolerance in the same way. An unfortunate side effect can be making other things like a normal sex life with your spouse seem bland by comparison and feeling like you need more and more. So my advice to you is if you feel it's affecting you negatively, detox for a few weeks and see how you feel. I personally haven't watched pornography in a few years, and I feel like it has vastly improved my life, my sex life, and my outlook. I still masturbate sometimes when my wife isn't in the mood, but I am not using any pornography as an aid. I just use my imagination and think about my wife, which thankfully, now that I have given up pornography, is plenty exciting and enticing to me. Hope this helps. Just one anecdote. Not saying it's the right thing to do, but it works for me. Story 15. It's only too much if you can't get an erection without it. But if you want to quit, just stop. Get yourself a kettlebell, and use the time you spent in other activities to swing the bell instead. Or switch to still images and use your imagination, then taper off. Story 16. My husband had a pornography addiction. Trust me, it's a real thing. He got so far into it, he'd do it in bed next to me. He would never want to touch me, and the few times he did, I just felt like an object. There was no connection. One time, we were having sexual relations, and he tried watching it while we were together. It didn't start like that. We actually started watching it together once every couple of weeks. But it turned into him doing it alone, and it became an obsession. He'd watch it literally any chance he'd get. It got so bad he'd lie about watching it. I had to put my foot down, and it came to me packing my bags. I was done. He stopped when he realized it had become such a problem. He was almost ready to lose me over it. I can't really tell you how you get out of it, but I guess my point is pornography addiction is a thing. Story 17. Back when I was in high school, I definitely had a problem with masturbation. I usually did it daily, and sometimes I would get off 8 to 9 times in one day. I realized it was a problem when I felt terrible after each time. I believe that contributed to my laziness during that period as well. There are a couple of things I've done that have really helped me drastically reduce the number of times I masturbate. Getting out of the house. Usually, I only did it at home in my room, and getting out of the house seemed to help because I prefer to be in a private area. Whenever I'm out and about, I'm rarely ever in a private area by myself long enough to masturbate without worry. Keeping yourself busy with things to do. What I've also noticed was that I only did it when I had a lot of time on my hands. Whenever I have a full day of tasks or just something that can make me tired as soon as I get home, I never even think about masturbating. The one thing that's probably helped me the most was writing down goals. I had this one goal to not engage in the activity for an entire week. Even when I had extra time or was in the house, I seemed to be okay with not masturbating that entire week. I've had moments where I usually felt a temptation, but I was able to resist it. I don't know how or why, but writing your goals and thoughts down on paper seems to work like magic. If all else fails, seek help. Story 18. Well, to some extent, I think many men and women have been there in the last 20 years. The problem is that it's a slippery road, easy to follow and hard to stop. Like many other undesirable behaviors, when you look through it, it's basically some kind of addiction. Like most addictions, it makes you feel good, but over time you'll reach the downside. Then you need more and more. Think of casual drinking versus drinking 2 bottles of vodka daily. I think, based on personal experience only, that pornography and masturbation are enhanced during lonely times, sitting at home a lot, for me during university. Unfortunately, you probably feel the same if you're in quarantine or lockdown. How to stop? Find some hobbies, stay away from home as long as possible. Keep busy, not roaming the streets. Get some friends, not sexually. Get a partner, sexually. And stay away from computers. Yes, even your smartphone is an enemy. Hard? Of course. Get professional help. I'm sure you can find plenty of good advisors around you. That's a very shallow answer. There are many factors that can cause this. If you feel trapped, and I think you do, I honestly advise you to get some help from a professional who will guide and follow your progress. Good luck.